Hi, I'm Victoria, and I like installing cameras in strange women's homes and watching them undress after I kill their parents. Oh no, wait. No, that's the hero of the book that we're going to talk about today. No, wait, let me try again. Hi, I'm Victoria, and I get really upset ranting about bad books for your entertainment. If you enjoy watching me suffer, like and subscribe. Today we will be counting the number of red flags we can find in Once You're Mine, a dark romance, possessive stalker story. Part 1 of 2. The reviews are actually more mixed than I usually see on these terrible books. Usually it's a lot of people with 5-star reviews being absolutely delusional, but this one seems to have a lot of 5 stars, but also a lot of reviews, so that's kind of interesting. I think maybe just because it got so popular, it does seem like it had some kind of TikTok marketing behind it. Okay, so the whole premise of a stalker romance is obviously a little unhinged from the get-go. I get that this is like a safe way to have a man obsess about you, like a safe fantasy because it's in a book, whereas you wouldn't want that in real life, and we all know we wouldn't want that in real life. So we're gonna give this author the benefit of the doubt to start with, and we're just gonna go with the fact that like the stalker obsessionness is part of the appeal, and whether or not you personally enjoy that is, up to you. Make your own decisions. So what I want out of this is I want a lot of angst. I want him to like be totally, completely into her. I want both of them to have a personality because that's been hit or miss in the best few that I've read. And I want really hot sex out of it. Those are the things that I want. What I don't want to see is him being actually creepy. Like, I get there's going to be some like obsessive like following her around and like watching her while she works and like that sort of thing like goes with the territory. So like we're accepting that is fine in this universe. But I don't want him to like like that one guy in the Cinderella and the Vampires book who was just like jacking it in the alleyway behind her. Like that was, we don't want that. We don't want that in this. So those are my hopes for Once You're Mine. Let's get into the meat of it. We open with the perspective of our hero, whose name is Hayden. He's murdered someone, which is a solid opener. I can respect that. Immediately we are hit with like 9 out of 10 on the emo angst scale. I want to read you a little quote here. Justice is a mistress that calls my name and pulls me into her embrace and leave me bereft, empty, wanting a closure I'll never possess. Rain falls in a light but steady stream, landing on every surface in the cemetery. Like this it keeps going. He talks like this the entire book. It is insufferable. 13-year-old me would have been so into this, like put like some Evanescence on in the background and I would have been like, yes. So Hayden goes on to talk about what a dangerous badass he is. And he talks about how he's growing obsessed with a woman named Callie. She is there at the cemetery grieving her father who he killed. And he's just kind of like watching the funeral in the bushes. For some reason, I guess he feels really touched that she's like poised, but also that she hugs her housekeeper, who seems to be like a surrogate mom who is never mentioned again for the entirety of the book. He's like, wow, she like hugs the help. Wow, she must be quite an angel. Like, okay. We also find out that this guy is the guy who died is a senator, so he's like murdered a senator, which is not great. Oh, and he also says most women are delicate, in need of protection. Sir, I will cut your balls off. Anyway, he watches her crying over the man he killed and has absolutely no regrets. I feel like that's kind of a red flag. I'm also going to add just one more flag for sexism. Honestly, not great for the first 10 pages, but also I've ignored way more red flags than this on the first date. So we then get a chapter from Callie's perspective. She works at a cafe, which sounds really cute and romantic unless you've ever worked a retail service job of any kind. We find out that even though her dad was a senator, she's used all of his money to pay off his debts, and there were like some shady financial deals, and she's completely broke. She like dropped out of college and she's working this cafe, and it's the only money she has, and she's pouring anything she has left into finding a private investigator who will find out who murdered her father. I feel like you'd have to be really, 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 really bad with money to have like senator money and not have a dime left over. Like, something went terribly, terribly wrong here. I don't get it. But okay, for the sake of this book, we'll pretend that that's plausible. So Callie meets with the private investigator on her break, and he's like, yeah, I've like run out of leads. It's gonna be like another few $100, and I don't do payment plans, so good luck. And she's really sad about it. We find out then that Hayden is secretly actually the one who got her the job at the cafe so that he could keep an eye on her. He's been obsessing over ever since he saw her at the gravesite. He is fascinated by her quitting college and selling her house. Why would you sell that? Like, to some extent, I have to respect that he is fawning over her for actions that she does rather than just she's really hot. But we just haven't seen any actual personality from Callie, so it's hard to get why he's so obsessed with her when she's just like an empty husk, like a placeholder. And I get that also maybe that's like part of the charm, and that you can just put yourself in her place, like a whole Hunger Games situation. But I don't know, I would like a little more from her. Eventually, Hayden comes into the cafe. Callie recognizes him as the prosecutor who prosecuted her father for the murder of his pregnant secretary. That he got pregnant. So that's a whole other thing. I also have to say that this guy's a prosecuting attorney, and he has time to murder people for fun. I don't know a lot of lawyers, but all the lawyers I do know don't have hobbies. They're too tired to murder people. That's too much work. So Callie's only had like one interaction with him previously, and apparently he wasn't obsessed with her then. He was only obsessed with her starting after he murdered her father. So it's not technically love at first sight, which is nice. So someone gives Callie a hard time as a customer, and Hayden reacts violently. Apparently that's really hot. So I'm gonna add one red flag for violence. So because of Callie's meeting with the private investigator, she needs more money. So she decides to walk down the street and try to get a job at the Hooters style bar, where it's more about like the hot waitresses rather than like whatever's going on there. She asks for a job and gets it because she's hot enough. Hayden, who has been following her, goes in after she leaves and tells the manager under no uncertain terms to not hire her. She's not working there because he doesn't want men looking at her. I'd be really pissed if I were her. Don't get between me and my money. That's a dangerous place to be. Red flag that he doesn't want her to work there, honestly. So after he does that, he goes back to her house and stands outside her window and watches her strip. He can see like her silhouette through the curtains. Normally that would be a red flag, but this is what we signed up for with the stalker romance, so I'm gonna let this one slide. Doesn't make me feel great though. So Hayden comes back to the cafe the next day, and he tells her that he's gonna be investigating her father's murder. He tells her this while she's eating a cake pop, which I usually wouldn't mention, but the cake pop gets more page time than I think Hayden does in this scene. The cake pop is just like doing a lot. It like every other sentence, the cake pop is like doing stuff, and it feels like it's a third character in this scene. As someone who doesn't really like to think about what happens in people's mouths while they're chewing, this was awful. I hated this so much. Like, she's just kept talking about, I feel the sugar rushing through my blood. I feel the sugar running over my tongue. Like, it's a single cake pop. Can we chill? So the discussion about that basically goes nowhere. He's just like, I'm doing this, and she's like, okay. After Callie does her shift at the cafe, she heads over for her first training shift at this new bar. So she like goes back to the bathroom to change into like a skimpy outfit, which is fine. She spends so much time examining herself in the mirror about this. She uses the phrase mounds of my breasts, which is extremely low on the list of ways that I would describe the girls, frankly. She's being really weird about her own body, and she seems deeply uncomfortable with just like wearing this in public and then having to do this job, which, like, if you feel uncomfortable doing it, don't do the job. Go get a job at literally any other bar. If you don't like it there, like, you can go somewhere else. There's other bars. This isn't the only bar in town. Like, also, she's the daughter of a senator. She probably has pretty good connections just from, like, going to prep school. Like, she could just get an internship going somewhere else. Like, she's clearly only working there so that Hayden has something to get mad about. And it's really annoying. To make it worse, then we have this conversation with the assistant manager. So the guy who hired her isn't there. This is a different guy. As long as you're not a complete bust and make it through the night, you'll keep the job. Make it through the night, I repeat. My voice nearly a squeak. We both know your type doesn't belong here. You're too sweet, sugar. He's right, but I've come too far. Besides, my pride won't let me crawl back to Bennett for help. Bennett is Hayden Bennett, guy. Your type? You mean like someone who is kind and compassionate and empathetic can't also work at a titty bar? Like, every woman who works there is some hardened, gold-digging crone? Like, fuck off. This man also has not spoken to her. He's, like, told her where the bathroom is. He doesn't know that she's not Regina George incarnate. Like, this makes me mad. It's just... So, predictably, her first customer is immediately rude to her. And Hayden comes in, and he's really upset that she's working there, and there's, like, this big altercation because they couldn't just have her work a normal shift at a normal bar. Anyway, Hayden's really mad, and he, like, takes her outside after he, like, almost kills the other guy. He then tells her she never should have been working in that job if people had listened to him, and tells her to get in his car. When she doesn't get in his car, he just throws her over his shoulder and puts her in his car, which I think is kidnapping. Pretty sure that's I'm gonna put that on the red flag list. Okay, then they have this deeply uncomfortable conversation while he's driving her. He admits that he wants to hurt her, but only sometimes. And he expresses his barely restrained sexual desire for her. At the same time that she's expressing that she's afraid and would like to leave. He takes her back to her apartment, and eventually he lets her go inside. She tries to tell him that she doesn't want to see him again because he's freaking her out, and he brushes her off. I'm just gonna add another, like, 2 red flags. We then find out he has broken into her apartment and had a bunch of spy cameras installed. So I'm just gonna add another. I know that this is, like, supposed to fulfill a fantasy about a man being completely obsessed with you, but, like, putting cameras in my bathroom, I draw the line. Once you're watching me do my business, that is weird. No, that is not romantic anymore. So because he set up all these cameras, he then proceeds to watch her shower and do other things while he is driving. Sir, look at the road. Eyes on the road, please. I'm gonna add another red flag for having no concern for his safety or the safety of others while on the road. That's bad. Don't watch porn while you're driving. Okay. Once she's asleep, he's compelled to come back and steal her underwear. So he steals her underwear, and then he takes a pearl necklace that's really important to her, breaks it, and then leaves a single pearl by her nightstand to let her know that, like, someone's been in her room. I'm just gonna add another red flag. Like, it's one thing to break in and, like, steal her underwear. It's another thing to be like, I want her to know that someone was here. I want her to feel deeply unsafe. That's much worse. The next day, he goes back to the titty bar and burns it down with the manager pinned to the bar. It feels kind of like Overhill. It feels like that guy didn't deserve to die for owning a titty bar. and letting a pretty girl work there. I don't think people have to die because they look at her cleavage. Let's just pray she never goes to a public pool to go swimming, because that would be a bloodbath. There's possessive, and then there's taking it a step too far. Okay, so he's killed someone for hiring her. That also feels like a red flag. Suffice to say, I don't like him. Callie's pretty freaked out by all of this. I don't think she knows about the bar burning down, but she sees the pearls and she's rightfully freaked out. She just can't figure out who would do that to her. Okay, so it couldn't possibly be this strange man who's committed violence twice in front of her. He's beat up 2 people for her that she knows of, who admitted to being obsessed with the idea of having sex with you, who admitted to sometimes wanting to hurt you because of the level of his desire, and you have no idea who this could be. No idea who the stalker could be. It's not really a mystery here. I feel like it's kind of obvious. Really difficult to believe that she's completely clueless about this. It's hard to be on her side when she's so oblivious. Like, we also don't, like, he hasn't been nice to her really in any way either. I guess she just assumes because he has a good job and a nice haircut that he couldn't be a stalker. This girl needs to watch more true crime documentaries. Oh, and we also find out she doesn't have a cell phone. This 20-year-old doesn't have a cell phone because she had to sell it to pay for her father. It doesn't make any sense why she wouldn't have a cell phone and then get, like, a pay-as-you-go plan on her cafe girl salary. Like, it's a safety thing. Regardless of the stalker, it's a, like, I don't see how a 20-year-old would not have a phone at all. She's realizing now that maybe that was a mistake to not have a phone. So she needs, like, $500 to get another one. And because she can't go back to the bar, she decides to try and sell some information to Hayden, because he's working on a bunch of cases and she feels like that information might be valuable to him. So she goes to his office. We find out that he makes his secretary call him sir, which feels really classist and dickish, so I'm gonna give him a red flag for that. So Hayden agrees to pay her for the information. And he also says this: I don't kiss women. I'm happy to lick their and suck their tits, but kissing someone is intimate. It's an emotional connection I've never cared for or wanted to encourage. This feels so disrespectful. Can't imagine hooking up with a guy who refused to kiss me because that's too intimate and he wouldn't want to lead me on and I don't deserve it. The excuse of him not wanting to encourage emotional connection with a woman is such bullshit. Oh, I don't want to kiss her because then she'll fall in love with me and think that I want to marry her and have her baby. Like, that's not how that works. He's afraid to kiss anyone because he is so scared of emotional connection. It has nothing to do with these women. He's just blaming the women for his feelings, which is just disgustingly sexist. This man there's something about that just really makes me mad. Maybe I'm a little crazy, but that just, he gets another red flag for that, for being kind of a dick about that. So Hayden brings up the fact that in the course of his investigation, he's uncovered some signs of abuse for her. There's the night of her father murdering the secretary, or not murdering the secretary, we don't know for sure. She had a blackout and there's pictures of her all bruised up. He demands that Callie tells him about it. She is a panic attack. And then he stops her from leaving when she's trying to leave, which again feels kidnappy. He then kisses her because she's so different from the other girls. And honestly, I'm really questioning Callie's capacity to consent in that situation. Another red flag. Just gonna add that. Again, it really is a one-man red flag parade. So Hayden kisses her, and then he starts thinking about the only other woman he's ever loved, his mother. Because Callie's near panic attack reminded him of his mother, who also used to have panic attacks. I know Freud has been debunked, but someone needs to get this man therapy. He's not okay. In this moment, he's realizing he's in love with Callie, even though they've had 4 interactions so far. Twice at the cafe, and then once at the bar. No, okay, so this is their 5th interaction, so falling in love is totally fine then. I'm pretty sure this is just what a crush feels like. Hayden, you need to chill. Please stop comparing her to your mother. So he gives her like $10,000 and a cell phone, and then tells her that they're like partners in this investigation. He tells her she has to answer all of his calls and texts promptly, which irks me immediately. Maybe I'm just petty, but he's then just like rude to her over text for absolutely no reason. And I just really hate him. There's not a single redeeming quality about this man other than the fact that he is hot and rich. On the inside, this man is garbage. He's just rude to everyone for no reason at all. Callie's kind of like sort of texting him back, sort of not texting him back, because she doesn't owe him that, and she's like at work. But she decides to go out with her bestie, who is also one of her coworkers, and they're gonna go out and party because it's been like a rough few days. Which is fine, because she's 20, and that's what 20-year-olds do. Hayden is obviously very upset about this. And among some of the many texts that he sends her as she begins to ignore him because she's like out and having fun with other people, he reminds her that this is strictly a business relationship, followed by, there are no boundaries between us. Excuse me? I hope that Callie uses that in the most petty way possible, because I would. Hot sauce in your body wash? Pee in your coffee? There are no boundaries between us. So obviously all of this is fine. That's a red flag. Anyone who says they have no boundaries and expects you to have no boundaries, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He also keeps telling her not to swear, which, like, it's fine if you're not into swearing. That's fine. But I get the sense from him that he's not fine with it because she's a woman and he expects her to behave a certain way because she's an attractive young woman and he wants to see her as better than everyone else. And if she swears, she's not better than everyone else. And I'm gonna bet that he doesn't tell his male coworkers not to swear. I would also say friends, but it seems like he doesn't have any. So, red flag. Like, I can get on board with the obsession. I can't get on board with him trying to control every aspect of her life. Like, I can get being possessive, and I understand how, like, parts of that are appealing. Like, I want you all to myself. I don't want any man looking at you the way that I look at you because you're like, I get the appeal of that. But you have to use the language that I want you to use. You have to text me immediately. You can't go out with friends. You can't go outside. There are no boundaries between us. That's not hot. That's just abusive. He does some unspeakable things to the underwear that he stole from her, and then comes to pick her up at the club. And they make out because this is strictly a business relationship, right? As he said before. He takes her back to his place, even though she asked to go to her own apartment. And he expresses his desire to own her completely, which, like, can you at least buy her dinner first? Like, these two have not had a single, like, just chill conversation. They have not, like, talked about hobbies, hopes and dreams, anything. Like, maybe go on a date, go out for ice cream, ask her what movies she likes. It's really hard to buy that the two of them have this, like, magnetic pull towards each other when we don't know that they have a single thing in common. I can't see that there's anything to like about Hayden. Callie's interacted with him a couple of times, and she's like, oh, he's so hot, but also he terrifies me. But, oh, he's so hot, but also he terrifies me. And, like, the but he terrifies me should override everything else. A little bit. At one point, she gets out of the car because she doesn't want to go to his house, and she tries to escape, but he's bigger and faster, so he catches her. And then we get, I just want to share this quote with you. Keep fighting me, he says, his voice becoming guttural. It only makes me want you more. And if I give in, will you throw me away like every other woman? There's no escaping this. I know. I've tried. Once you accept this thing between us, you'll never leave. And they immediately have what seems to be definitely consensual relations in the alleyway that she's trying to escape to. First of all, never date a guy who you perceive as having thrown away every other woman. If anyone tells you that there's no escaping me, you'll never leave me, you just have to accept my love, like, okay, I'm just gonna add another two. Like, again, I'm trying to get on board with him being obsessed with her. I'm for that. The possessiveness, sure, but like he just takes it to such a level that I can't enjoy them. Like, he's such a dick to everyone around him. I don't see what's, like, at least show him cuddling a puppy or something. Show me that he has a soul, that he doesn't just want to crush her. Oh, and all the way through this, she's like concerned about bringing the stalker back to Hayden's and what can happen if like the stalker finds out that she's at Hayden's, not considering that this man who has kidnapped her multiple times at this point might be her stalker. This woman is so stupid. It's upsetting. So Callie confides in him about this stalker business, and Hayden is like, oh, you should move in with me and just like never leave and not go to work and not do anything. I'll protect you. And then he's like, well, if I'm not worried about you being stalked, then I can focus on finding your father's killer. Which, if this guy was only trying to be manipulative so she didn't find out that he killed her father, there would be something really fun and insidious about this. Like, if this guy slowly became obsessed with her because they live together, because he's trying to divert her attention away from her father's murder, that would be a much more fun storyline, instead of he's doing it mostly because he wants her, and it's like the manipulation is kind of secondary to the fact that he just wants to be around her all the time. So like after Callie goes to bed, he goes back to his office, and through some more research he finds out that Callie had GHB in her system on the night that her father was supposed to have killed the secretary. He overreacts to this. He like trashes his entire office. He throws a huge tantrum, and like Callie wakes up because he's trashing it and like is concerned that he's punching holes in his own walls. And like there's nothing more cute and endearing than seeing a grown-ass man throw a tantrum. Am I right, ladies? So the next day, Callie isn't supposed to go anywhere, but she sneaks out to see her bestie at work, and she fills her in on what's happened, and her best friend is like, yeah, no, he's super into you. Go for it. This, like, he's controlling, but, like, that's really hot. He's just, like, so one-minded. He's so single-minded about you. Like, that's really hot. You should go with it. That is not the advice I would give to my best friend in this situation. Personally. Finally, Hayden takes Callie to go for an actual date, which is nice of him, I guess. They talk about her moving in permanently, and he's all like, I'd marry you tonight if I wanted. I'm like, this is their first date. Pull yourself together, Hayden. I'm starting to understand why he's so afraid of being intimate with any other woman, because, like, the moment he is like, oh, emotional intimacy is okay, he goes way too far, way too fast, just over the deep end. Like, maybe if he had kissed women on the lips and, like, had emotional connections with women, he would not be so intense. He would move at a healthy, reasonable pace. Maybe. Anyway, apparently Callie thinks this is really romantic, but she says yes. They celebrate when they get back home. And I just have a couple things to point out here. It's not like I'm a virgin, but I slam my mouth to hers, smothering the words that could send me into a rage. Callista yields to me, her lips parting and her body softening underneath mine. I kiss her until she wraps her arms around my neck, any lingering discomfort far from her mind. If you say another man's name while wearing my cum on your skin, I'll kill him, I say. I might anyway, since he had the privilege of your body before I did. One thing's for certain, I'll be the last person to you. So I just have a couple things about this quote. First of all, slam is not a good verb for kissing. Don't like that. 2, I understand not wanting to know the details of your partner's intimate past, but I hate that she's not a virgin and would kill any of her exes is not it. No. And then I'll be the last person to fuck you is so ominous. It's feeling very if I can't have you, no one else can vibes. So I'm just gonna add another 2 red flags here. Callie later tells her terrible best friend about this, and we get this delightful quote. He did dig into it like he was searching for gold. I'm sorry, that imagery sounds so painful. That's not hot, that's horrifying. Later that day, Callie is going through the closets trying to find something to wear. I don't know if she'd like... Oh, Hayden also sold all of the belongings in her apartment. I think he like packed a couple of like sentimental things, but like he sold all of her furniture and stuff. So if she tries to move out, it's kind of a barrier. She can't go back. So I don't know how many clothes she has, but later that day, Callie is looking for clothes, and in one of Hayden's pockets, she finds a handful of pearls, like the pearls that he was leaving on her nightstand, to show her that he was the stalker. Oh my god, he is the stalker. We finally figured it out. It only took her 200 pages. Ugh. So Callie waits until Hayden comes home and confronts him, instead of packing a bag full of cash and running out. And that's where the book ends. We don't really get to see anybody's reaction. So because it was such a cliffhanger, a lot of readers complained about that cliffhanger in the reviews. But I started reading the next bit of book 2 to give us all some closure. Callie is pissed, but Hayden's like, I did this to protect you until I find the person who assaulted you on the night of your father murdering someone. And then he just like carries her into the kitchen and forces her to have a snack, and she's just kind of like pouting about it. Her reaction feels underwhelming. I would be a little more upset. I dare say I might be a little violent about it, frankly. That's unhinged and scary. I don't think she understands that she's in actual danger with this man who has admitted that he wants to hurt you a little bit. I was really hoping for like a big breakup, but nope. It feels like they're just gonna like slowly work through this, and she's gonna be a little bit mad that he murdered her father, but she'll understand. I bet. If you wanna read the second book and see how it ends, please let me know how it goes. But I feel like I've gotten the gist of it. I feel like her reaction now tells me that she's just not gonna break up with him when she should. I'm finding a hard time getting on board with this because Hayden just seems like the worst person, and it would be nice if they showed us his soft side at all. Like literally having him have a single interest, having Callie have a single interest. I can't get on board with it because they don't seem like people. He just seems like a rage machine, and she just seems like an idiot. There were some reviews that said the pacing was really off, that like nothing happened in the first book, and I both agree and disagree with that. I feel like the 2 books could have been 1 book, and we could have like gotten some more reveals faster. Callie should have figured out that he was a stalker within minutes, honestly. And then they could have done more with that, but like also it didn't. I was just so upset with everything that was happening. It didn't feel like it dragged. I was just swept by on the wings of rage, I guess. But hey, TikTok likes it. So who am I to say what's good literature, right? Yeah, that is the book. Thank you so much to Morgan Bridges for providing us with at least an hour's worth of entertainment. That was a ride. Thank you so much if you've stayed to help me through this journey. I appreciate that. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more of these kinds of videos from me. And please let me know what you think of Hayden in the comments. Let me know if I'm insane. Let me know if you think that this is an appropriate number of red flags. But yeah, I'll see you next time.